You know, one of the most common things I used to be asked when I was in the motor trade was, what car should I buy? And I used to say, well, if you're looking just for a solid, reliable run around that doesn't need to be anything fancy, or a sensible family car, or even a hot hatch, then just buy a Golf. I mean, the Golf is one of the cars that truly transcends classes. I mean, you get everything from students running old bangers to families running 5-door ones to multi-millionaires running top-of-the-range GTIs or Golf Rs, rather than using their impractical supercar as an everyday vehicle. I mean, they've done everything with them. They've done 3 doors, they've done 5 doors, they've done convertibles, they've done an estate, they've done petrol, they've done diesel, they've even electrified one. Well, not anymore. You see, after the whole Dieselgate scandal of 2015, Volkswagen were left reeling. So instead of electrifying a current car to try and get them back on the pedestal, they came out with a brand new one. Clean sheet, start again. So it was goodbye e-Golf, hello ID3. Now, Volkswagen love a concept car, and after what was a pretty harrowing 2015 for them, the following year in 2016 they showed the ID Concept at the Paris Auto Salon, which was a 5-door family hatch, Golf size, but full electric, and promised it would become a production reality. That happened back at the 2019 Frankfurt show. We were there when we saw the first production version of the ID3. Now, the ID3 tag, the 3 has 2 significant reasons. 3 puts it in sort of like its marketplace sector, that sort of, as I say, 5-door compact family car. But also they say it's the 3rd generation of Volkswagen's people car, after the Beetle, the Golf, and now this, the ID3. Now, I don't want to keep mentioning the Dieselgate scandal too much, but let's be honest, Volkswagen's reputation has been left in a bit of tatters because of it. They've been left reeling, and bridges need to be built. That's why this car is so important. They are building it in a completely carbon neutral factory that uses renewable energy. Even the car itself is said to be carbon neutral, from its supply chain to manufacture to logistics and delivering to customers. It's really, really important that they are being shown to turn over a new leaf. In fact, they're the only car manufacturer that's actually signed up to the Paris Climate Agreement. And they say that by 2050, everything has to be CO2 neutral. Not only that, but they want to be #1 in electric mobility as far as car manufacturers are concerned, and to do so, they're saying that by 2024 they're going to invest no less than 33 billion euros to achieve that. No pressure then, fella. Okay, let's start with the car's looks, which are not radical like a BMW i3, but they're not really going to put anybody off. I mean, it's recognisable Volkswagen. It's got the big new VW logo front and rear, these lovely sort of like matrix LED headlights at the front, whose the daytime running light graphic is really quite distinctive. In fact, the whole front end looks like a sort of grown up, if that makes sense. There's no grille on the car, but there's cooling down here, which helps there, this mottled effect here. And then everything's got a really nice strong sort of like creases. You've got this lovely window line here, and there's a lot of glass around the car. Visibility is excellent on the vehicle, which we'll see obviously when we're driving it. But again, crisp, clean lines as you'd expect from Volkswagen, and really nice tight shut lines as well. I love this sort of like real crease that comes up here, and then there's one down there just pinching the bodywork in a little bit, and this sort of like black side sill here, and these really distinctive big mirrors. This is a first edition specification car, so it gets the 19-inch wheels, but believe it or not, you can actually get 20-inch alloys on the car. 20-inch alloys on a 5-door family car. Who'd have thought that a few years back? And the other thing with these first edition cars is you get this contrast here, but this is actually just a decal, and I can see that, a sticker, I can see that kind of coming off over time. But on this side profile, you can see this really strong line that I was telling about, and this lovely window line graphic, and again, that nice side sill. At the rear, huge rear spoiler to aid with aerodynamics, and obviously that's going to help with range as well as everything else. In the back of the car, you've got these lovely neat LED tail lights with the typical scrolling sort of design that we're used to seeing on Volkswagen and Audis, now with all the LED lights in them. As I say, this big prominent rear spoiler, big bold Volkswagen badge at the back, which also doubles as the handle and reversing camera, and a prominent ID3 badge. This car in this grey also has a contrasting black roof and black panel here, but obviously you can get different colours and different things, and they can obviously look different depending on what you specify. But I think it's a really good looking car. It's not pretty or stylish, it's just a good looking car, and they're shouting about it, and I can see why. The boot space is pretty good as well. It's slightly bigger than a Golf at 385 litres. One of the important things for us is your comments, and somebody commented on one of our previous videos saying, well, it's all very well telling us about the litres, Brian, but what does that actually mean? So imagine my wife's delight this morning when I left the house with 3 suitcases, only then to be shot down in flames when I told her they're empty and I'm just using them for filming. But here we go. You've got a small amount of underfloor storage, not much, but there's a small trough at the back where you can pop a cable in. Now you get 2 types of cables with this, the normal standard type 2 and the 3-pin emergency cable, but that one is an option. So I've got the emergency cable stored underneath there, the type 2 clips in its bag up in here, and then we've got one large suitcase, one medium suitcase going in there, and then a cabin size bag to go in there. Oh. So there you go, that's how big the boot is in an ID3, 3 suitcases. So, rear seat space, well yeah, it's pretty good back here. As I said earlier, the idea behind the ID3 was to be the size of a Golf with the interior size of a Passat, and pretty much that's what we've got here. The seat set up for myself, so there's plenty of knee room here. Nice, they've got little pockets the backs of the seats here for putting maybe mobiles or something, plus that there. The seating for 3 across. We've got 2 ISOFIX points in the rear. There is also a third ISOFIX point on the front seat as well, a fold down armrest. You've also got the 60-40 split across the rear seat, which I didn't mention before in the boot space, so you can extend that. And also you have the little load through hatch, so if you've got longer items that can come through here. The only downside is if you go for the 77 kilowatt hour battery that's coming, it means that you're going to do away with the middle seat anchor point, because the batteries have to go below there, so just keep that in mind. Other than that, back here, as I say, lovely amount of room and a couple of little USB-C points down there too. Okay, so ignore the slightly gaudy interior of this first edition car. You can have it with black and this rather than this all this white and orange. So yeah, ignore that. I must admit, I'm not a big fan of this whole stuff. But what a really nice interior. It reminds me a lot of the BMW i3, and if, you know, sort of like imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, I'd say that's a good thing. You've got 2 distinctive binnacles, one in front of the driver, 5-inch one in front of the driver, and this 10-inch one here. And this gives you just enough information. So I've got speed, I've got my sort of like drive indication here, little bits and pieces that you can have. I've got range that tells me here, and then obviously if I'm using the distance control for the cruise control, that is also here. But you can also move the view, you see, you can split it like that. Now this is weird because most of the controls have got like a sort of touch screen, even the ones on the steering wheel, but then they've also got physical buttons as well. It's a bit weird, they've got both. And that's where the problems start to occur. You see, there's a lot of touch sensitive buttons in here. So for the air conditioning, and you've got really nice little bit of haptic feedback, but then the volume for the radio next to it doesn't, but it does on the steering wheel. I don't get why some have it and some don't. And it's also got gesture control. That's all right. That does okay. Now the car's also going to have a big software update in 2021, which will come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so we won't get too involved with that so far. But in terms of the actual screen itself, it's pretty good, and you can move these tiles around like you can on your smartphone, or you can, you know, depending obviously where you want them to be, So yeah, that's nice. It's a really open and airy feeling cockpit, as I say, like the i3, and then you've got this massive sort of like open bit of expanse here, little storage net in there, a couple of cup holders, a little slot for your mobile phone, which I think is wireless charging, but it hasn't seemed to charge mine, so I don't know if that's an option, so apologies on that. Folding armrests on the two front seats. Then you've got this bin in here, which is just huge, loads of storage space and USB port there, but then a tiny little glove box just for your handbooks. The other weird thing as well is on this door panel, we've got switches for the front two windows, but not the rear. And then I realised there's a little symbol here that says rear, and it is literally, you minutely touch it, and it opens the back windows. Why not just put 4 switches in? Why do you have to go in for all that? Because these are so sensitive, these buttons. I mean, thank God they don't make missile launchers with buttons as sensitive as that. That's all I'll say. But on the whole, up here, it's really nice and it's light and it's airy. The other thing I don't particularly like, however, is these buttons back here. Now, they've got lights, maximum defrost for the front screen and rear defrost. They're tucked away in there. I don't understand why they're not on the right hand side. They're on the left or in here. Anyway, there you go. But on the whole, a really nice effort. Just stay away from the orange and white, eh? Now, the ID3 is going to be available in 3 battery sizes. There's a 45 kilowatt hour battery, which gives a range of just over 200 miles. I think it's about 206 miles. There's this, which is the 58 kilowatt hour car, which gives a range of 260 miles. And there's a 77 kilowatt hour battery coming, which gives a range of 336 miles. Now, that's according to WLTP figures. The only thing I will say is, bringing a car back from Milton Keynes the other day to Surrey, I didn't think it was that efficient. It was a little bit like the Audi e-tron. It didn't seem to be that efficient. Not something like the Hyundai or the Kias of the world, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because it really was all motorway driving. Anyway, charging is done through the port at the back here, standard CCS charger. The car will also take speeds of up to 100 kilowatts, meaning you can go from 0 to 80% in just over 30 minutes. Or if you're using your home wall box, 0 to empty is about 9.5 hours on this car. So, the ID3, what's it like to drive? Well, it's typical Volkswagen, really, and I mean that in a really good way. There's a slickness to it that seems to be lacking in some of the other cars I've driven, like the Ioniq and the Leaf. I mean, to paraphrase Audi, when they said, well, it's Audi but electrified, it's kind of like this with the ID3. It's Volkswagen but electrified. The car has a smoothness to it that's really typical of Volkswagen. As I say, when you first get in it and you look around and you go, oh, that's really different and really kind of radical in terms of the dashboard layout and the sort of the colours they've used in this first edition car. That's all very well and good, but on the move, goodness me, don't I feel like a proper Volkswagen? Now, it's quite brisk. We'll call it brisk rather than fast. I mean, it's 201 brake horsepower, this particular car, and that's the same, remember, as a Mark V Golf GTI. Not to 67.3 seconds, so as I say, it's plenty quick enough as a hatchback, a 5-door family hatch, if now slightly slower than kind of performance cars. So, but Volkswagen aren't trying for it to be a GTI. Interestingly, though, Cupra, which is Seat's kind of performance brand, they're going to do a Cupra version of their L-Born. Yeah, really. I don't know why they've called it that, but it's called an L-Born. But that's what they're going to do. So Cupra are going to do a performance version of this car. And you know what? They've got a pretty good base to start with, to be honest with you. The chassis is really quite nice. It's got a fluidity to it. Then, as I say, it's not a performance car, but as I say, there's a fluidity to the chassis that just feels nice. The dampers, the suspension, they've got it just right. I mean, this car, as I say, remember, is on 19-inch wheels. So you'd expect perhaps a little bit of bump thump and tram lining and things, but no, none of it. It steers well and precise. And as I say, I can't really describe it other than that. It's like a real slickness that you expect from Volkswagen. And funnily enough, it's something that became quite apparent the more I drove it. So the longer you spend with the car, the more you start to appreciate its real qualities. But the other quality that you notice straight away is the NVH, the noise, vibration and harshness, or dare I say lack of. This is a beautifully refined car. There's a tiny little bit of tyre noise comes in, but that's it. Wind noise is well suppressed. Obviously there's no engine noise, obviously. The motor is mounted at the rear, so it's rear wheel drive, but it has a balance that doesn't make it overly prominent in terms of its rear wheel driveness. It could be front wheel drive, you wouldn't really know. The benefit, of course, of putting the motor at the back, like Honda did with the Honda E, is the steering lock. It's got a really good lock. I mean, Volkswagen say it's almost the same lock as their little Up city car, and if that's the case, that's fantastic. Well done, VW. But as I say, the drive of the car, that's what we're talking about here. It's really, really nice. It's comfortable, it's slick, it's refined, it's quiet, it's everything you expect from Volkswagen, and they really have delivered in terms of that. It's lovely to drive. You've got obviously the usual safety equipment that we're used to. You've got the lane keep assist, you've got autonomous braking. If you're getting too close to the object in front, the car will brake for you. It has this ID light, as they call it, which is a strip across the dashboard. So it does have voice recognition, and that comes up when you talk to the car. And as I say, if you're getting a little bit too close to the car in front or the obstacle in front, that comes up on the little screen here and warns you. Just talking about these screens again, really nice driving position, and this one's mounted on the actual steering column. So if you move the column, the screen moves, which is brilliant. You know, simple but brilliant. And this other one in the middle is nice, clear and easy to use. I mean, we've spoken about the buttons, we've spoken about the bits and pieces on it, which some could be better, but you know what, gesture control works really well. Quite like that. That's nice and easy if you do need to use it. So yeah, it's nice. Now let's go on to the brakes. The car obviously has regenerative brakes, and much like the cars that we've been driving of late, it's a two-stage one, so it's either on or it's off. And I'm getting used to that now, rather than the Hyundai and Kia where you've got the three-way adjustable with the power. You know, you've got sort of like hardly any, medium, and then really aggressive. This is like the Renault and the Peugeot. You've either got it on or off. So with it off, the car will coast, which adds to its efficiency. With it on, and you get that by just twisting the drive lever from D to B, it bleeds in, and it's nice. Now, it's not one pedal driving, it's not as aggressive as say the Leaf's E pedal, but it's okay, it's really good. It just gives you enough retardation that, you know, through town or, you know, sort of like smaller country lanes, it just gives you enough that you've yeah, you back off the throttle and it just brakes you enough. It's fine. I really like it, and as I say, I'm getting really used to this sort of two-stage system that's appearing on most of the European EVs now. Works well. But going back to the suspension just for a second as well, in terms of the ride quality, where we're now filming, which is close to where I live in Surrey, there's a couple of bits of road that I take the cars down where there's raised ironworks, if you like. There's a couple of really quite aggressively bad potholes, and there's a really bad expansion joint which sends an absolute crash through my little Volvo, or even my wife's Land Rover. I tell you what, it doesn't in this car, and that's a real surprise. That shows me the breadth of engineering that's gone into the ID3. As I say, when you come up to something as harsh as that particular pothole, or as I say, join across the road, that this just takes it in its stride. It's fantastic. Well done VW. I mean, your chassis engineers have done a great job on this. As I say, performance is brisk. You know, it gives you enough to sort of get out of trouble. There isn't any sort of like particular thing that you need to do. I mean, there's again drive modes. We've got sport, individual and comfort. I've got it in sport at the moment, so you've got that really nice sort of like crisp throttle response, which is good. I like that. And then obviously you can set the car up to be individual if you want, depending obviously on how you feel, or go back to being the comfort mode if you want to take a little bit more, or eke a little bit more miles out of the car, I should say, rather than keep it in sport all the time. But this is a really nice car to drive, and I keep going back to that. I think at the £30,000 price bracket, and please don't get me wrong, I know £30,000 is a lot of money. I am not going to try and trivialise £30,000 in this day and age, but you know, when you look at what else is out there in the marketplace at £30,000, they're not as big and they're not as slick and comfortable as the ID3. I like it. Well done, Volkswagen. The ID3 is available in a plethora of trim levels. Are you ready? There is Life, Business, Style, Family, Tech, First Edition, Max and Tour. This is the first edition car. Now prices start from £30,000, which is very, very competitive. And that's when you take the £3,000 plug-in car grant that's currently available at time of filming from the UK government. And it rises to £40,000, again for the top of the range car when that same grant is taken into account. So it is quite a breadth of availability that's available and a good breadth of pricing as well. And it makes it a really competitive car in the marketplace. So as well as all those trim levels, you've got the 3 batteries to choose from eventually, and there's also 2 power outputs, the 148 brake horsepower car and the 201 brake horsepower car. So plenty to choose from then. So what else might you be considering if you're looking at the ID3? Well, given the breadth of pricing and options that's available on the car in terms of battery size and such like, you've got, I mean, the world is your oyster. In terms of actual physical size of car, then it's things like the Nissan Leaf, Hyundai Ioniq, and you might also maybe consider the crossover cars, such as the Hyundai Kona electric, the Kia Soul and the Kia Niro as well. So they're also available round about that price trim. But bear in mind that £30,000 price starting point also puts it in line with this much smaller super mini class, such as the Peugeot E28 and the Vauxhall Corsa electric, as well as the Honda E and the Mini. So it's a very competitive and aggressive pricing strategy. Also, as well, as I say, it's part of the Volkswagen's MEB platform, and we're going to see cars spun off from that, like the Seat L-Born, really, and Skoda Enyaq, which is again their crossover style, and not forgetting obviously on the same platform Volkswagen will also be bringing out their ID4 crossover. So this sector of the market, this £30,000 to £40,000 bracket, is really going to start hotting up soon, and that's before you take into account petrol cars. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the Volkswagen ID3. We like its styling, the good choice of trim and battery specifications available, its refinement, the performance and the price point of the entry-level car. We don't like some of the interior controls. Voice activation not as good as it should be. There are areas of cost cutting evident in the interior, and the higher battery capacity reduces the rear seat to just the 2 occupants. So, have they done it? Have Volkswagen quashed all the bad publicity and everything that was going on before with this car? Well, when I first saw it at the Frankfurt Motor Show, I was quite excited about it. I quite liked the look of it, but then I sort of forgot about it. I didn't really think about it again until I picked the car up this week. And at first, while there were some little niggles that kind of, I didn't really like this and I didn't really like that button and this, the more I lived with it, the more I realised how good a car it actually is. And that, as I say, brings me back to what I was saying earlier. It's a typical Volkswagen. Yes, I'm disappointed they didn't take more of a risk with it. They didn't do something as far out there like BMW did with the i3, but then I realised they can't alienate any more people than they've already done with the Dieselgate scandal. So that's why they've got this. It's modern enough, yet familiar enough for anybody coming from a lifetime of Volkswagen Golf ownership or other product that they've had to get on really, really well with. And it's the longer you live with the ID3, the more you realise what a good car it really is. From here on in, Volkswagen are going to be banking on the ID brand. And from here on in, when somebody asks me for a no-nonsense, sensible, run-of-the-mill, reliable, comfortable electric car, I'm just going to say to them, just buy an ID3. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.